All right, it's 16 minutes past 9 this morning. Now, the Tackle Your Feelings campaign was launched by Rugby Players Ireland and Zurich in 2016. It's funded by the Zurich Foundation. As part of the Tackle Your Feelings campaign, Rugby Players Ireland were joined by Joey Carbery to support the hashtag I'm Taking Control campaign, which provides people with the tools to take control of their mental well-being using sports psychology and positive psychology principles. And I'm delighted to say that Joey, who's been announced as the newest ambassador for Tackle Your Feelings, is with us this morning here on OTB AM. Joey, good morning to you. How are you getting on?
Morning, guys. How are you?
Yeah, can you talk to us a little bit about sports psychology and your interest in that field and why you got interested in getting involved in this project in particular?
I think it's really important for obviously just not just sports people, but everyone in general. Having the mental well-being. I know personally from when I was out with my injury for a while that there was some hard times physically, but almost as much mentally. So while I was working away on my physical side, I knew the importance of working mentally as well. And that I found that hugely encouraging for me and helped me get through the tough times. So having that base behind you and the support network is massively important.
Is that something that you woke up to as a like 18, 19, 20, 22-year-old, or was it actually something that when you were 15 you were coming through and reading sports psychology books and reading about kickers, for example? Like I know Johnny Wilkinson was big into talking to people and getting help early on in his career. So were you always interested in this?
Probably not that early, but when I started playing probably in crowded stadiums and under a bit more pressure, I started to look into it a little bit more, and I think it's something that's helped me a lot throughout the years, and it's something I'd definitely encourage anyone to give a go.
Because anytime I've read any sports psychology, you're reading it and you're going, this makes a lot of sense for a sports person, but actually it makes a lot of sense for real life too. It's basically cognitive behaviour therapy, where you're thinking, I just need to think about what's happening at the moment and focus on that, and everything else becomes external, and then you can quiet your brain and actually make it do whatever you want it to do.
Yeah, massively. Just like you said, I think it can be related to everyday practices as well. Like if you're under pressure with your work or your time pressure, or it's just good ways to be able to relax yourself and de-stress a little bit, because our mind can be a bit cluttered sometimes when you're stressed.
Do you have a routine? I mean, obviously you have a routine, but do you have a mental routine as well as a physical routine when you're taking big kicks?
I suppose just trying to breathe, that's a big thing, and not worry too much about the outcome, and more so just worry about 2 or 3 things that I think about myself, like staying online and getting a good connection on the ball. So trying to take away the worries of missing it is a big thing.
Various players do the pick the piece of grass up and throw it away, and like I'm getting rid of that thing. Johnny Wilkinson used to have the hands cupped, and I remember one time, for a period of time, he was like, I'm just going to get the water that's in my hands, the imaginary water that's in his hands, to be still. And when that's still, he's ready to go. I thought that was like completely amazing, because the whole world is watching him going, what's he doing with his hands? And then years later, he's like, I'm holding water, I'm keeping it still. When that's still, my brain is still, and I kick it. Do you have something similar to any of that kind of stuff?
Probably not into that detail, but I like when I've done my steps back and I'm online with the ball, just to kind of feel my feet on the ground. I just something I focus on standing there. Not as technical as balancing the water, but it's just a little cue and then a few deep breaths and it settles me.
It's the same principle, isn't it? Like I'm alive and present here, the grass is green, I feel my feet.
Exactly, it's the same principle, and it's just something that diverts your brain a little bit away from maybe the stress of the game or the time in the game, and allows you to refocus back on the ball.
Did someone tell you to do that? Was that a trick that you picked up from somebody else?
Probably down the years, people have told me, like chatting with Richie Murphy a good bit when I was kicking, just to focus in on one thing rather than and not worry about anything else. But it's something I've kind of learned myself as well, and developed over the years during times where I haven't been kicking well, and something that I could just refocus myself into.
Do you think you're a mentally stronger person now at the other side of the injuries that you mentioned there a moment ago than you were beforehand?
Yeah, massively. I think the injury taught me a lot about mentally myself and being able to get through it, and I suppose it it makes me extremely grateful as well to be back playing and to be healthy again. We kind of take it for granted sometimes when you're a professional rugby player, that you're just like, yeah, everything's good. But when you're actually been out and you miss it, and it's something you can't do for a while, I think you really, really miss it. So being able to be back out there and being back on the pitch, it's massive. I'm massively grateful for it.
What's the main emotion when you're not out there? Is it frustration? Is it anger? Or what's going through your head?
Frustration, I'd say. So being able to deal with that frustration and I suppose channel it into the right areas. Using the coping systems that are on the Tackle Your Feelings app helped me a lot as well. Being able to channel it all in and put it to good work, because it can be extremely powerful as well. So using those emotions for the betterment of you, I think is important.
So you obviously had very well publicised issues with the ankle for a period of time, and then you get back and you get fit again and you play in November, and then you did the elbow. It must have been very difficult to deal with that when you're like, oh my God, I literally just got back. I'm like finally feeling good about life again, and then this random injury happens.
I know. I think the key word there is random. It was literally just a freak accident where, had his head been a few centimeters below, it would have just missed me completely. But yeah, it was incredibly frustrating. But I was lucky it wasn't too serious, and I could get back relatively quick.
And when that happens, are you like, well, at least it's not my ankle, this is fine, I can deal with this because I'm going to have to deal with this throughout my career, because that's what's going to happen. It's rugby, I'm going to get some injuries, but so long as it's nothing serious, I'm going to be okay here.
Exactly. I think even though you're out for a few weeks, it's it's not to the same extent of what I've been through. So knowing that I've been through something worse weirdly makes it easier.
You were in a really interesting position then on Saturday, because I guess you're, from the public perception anyway, they haven't seen a lot of you play over the last couple of months, and then on top of that, it's your first Six Nations start. Is there anything in your head at all that is telling you that you're not going to be ready for that? Because it definitely seemed that you'd hit the ground running completely on Saturdays if you have been playing consecutively for the past 10 weeks or something like that.
I think that comes back to the environment that we're in and the preparation that we do during the weeks. I felt like I was ready, and like you said, I'd played a few games before mentally coming into that game, and I knew all I had to do was go out and do my job. And obviously very disappointing with the result, but it showed what the teams are made of and what we can achieve. We probably left the mountain too tall to climb at the end. We gave them the 10-point start early on, and it's tough to come back from that. But I think there was massive positives to come from it as well.
What was the build-up like from your perspective? Because I saw in the press conference that you were talking about, you had some family coming over anyway, but all of a sudden there was a gang going when they found out that you were starting. So what was that roller coaster like from you? At what point are you actually told? How does that conversation go?
We were told early enough on Thursday morning what the story was, so there was enough time to let people know and could chat to people in. But it was obviously meant a huge amount to me. It was my first Six Nations start, and to be able to have family there was incredibly special, and it doesn't get too much bigger than France and Paris.
No, exactly. It's like, it's one of the good trips as well. It's like everybody loves going to Paris, except I suspect for you there's kind of a little bit of an added headache then when suddenly 3-4 people go and becomes 10-12. You're like, Jesus, how am I going to get all these tickets?
It didn't end up being that much people. In the end, there was a few people, but only close. So I was sorted enough with the tickets. I couldn't have dealt with trying to get 10 tickets, to be honest.
I know, because it's not like you have anything else to worry about. You know, that massive French pack.
Exactly.
Oh, I've got to get these tickets too. So.
I know. I said to them, I was like, guys, I'll sort you out for this number, but after that, you're on your own.
Fair enough. I'm sure they all did quite well. Can you talk to us a little bit about what that is actually like, where you do get to break the news to friends and family that all of your struggles for now are definitely over, and you've turned a corner and you're starting against France in Paris? Like, there's loads of different things where I suspect the game itself and the build up and actually being out there for Ireland's call, they're all huge kind of signifiers, but the people who know most intimately what you've been through are the ones you tell first. What's that conversation like?
Yeah, the conversations I had on Thursday with my parents and my fiance Robin were incredibly special, because they're the ones I would have had the tough conversations with during the tough times. So being able to share the nice stories and the good things that are happening, it makes it twice as nice. So being able to share the conversation, and then they were all over in Paris there with me, and being able to be with them the day before the game and the day of the game, going for a walk and just to clear the mind. It's incredibly special to share it with them, and it makes it so much nicer for me. Like, obviously I was incredibly proud, but to know that you've got such great people behind you makes it twice as special.
What's the difference in terms of how you actually play the game between starting a game and coming off, where you've seen different patterns of play? Like, you don't get an introduction where you know how the French back row are planning on targeting you, or what their defensive structure actually looks like for this game. When you're on the bench, you get to have at least a little sense of what that's going to be like. So that start to the match, how different is it from anything maybe you'd expected or experienced before?
I went about it the same way as if I was starting any other game. I think I was confident enough in the preparation I'd had during the week, but I actually prefer starting than being on the bench, as you kind of get all these nerves anyway before the game and the warm-up, and then when the national anthems come on. But being able to just get out there and do it from the start, I think makes a big difference. So I actually find it tougher to be on the bench, because you don't know what part of the game you're going to come in on. You don't know what the situation's going to be, or at least at the start you can have an influence, and you'll be able to put your foot forward from the start.
When you drop the ball on Mac Hansen's head and he's like suddenly straight through, is that like, well, the training ground really works, or is that something that is just one of those things that happens?
It was one of those things that happens, because we'd actually planned to kick it the other way. And then after the first kick, Conway had come to me and he said they're completely blocking him. I think he was getting roughed up a bit, so he wasn't too happy about that. So I was like, right, let's go the other way. And it was kind of one of those things that just didn't really realise it happened until he'd scored the try and gave me the ball to take the kick. And I was like, geez, that actually worked.
Happy days.
But yeah, no, to be honest, it was an incredible catch, travelling at that speed and being able to keep your eye on it over your shoulder as well. He did really well.
In terms of your kicking as well at the moment, like your percentage rate at international level at the moment is absolutely sensational. So is this a sweet spot for you? Is this something that you've got nailed down in your build-up and just your ability to look at the posts and go, yeah, they look pretty big to me at the moment?
Yeah, I think I'm pretty happy with how my kicking's going. I feel comfortable when I stand over the ball, which is a massive thing. I was, before the Wales game though, I probably got 3 out of 20 in the warm up. I was like, good. This is not the great way to warm up, but you kind of just put those things behind you, and you know that when in the game, when things actually when they matter, it's all the preparation, all the work you've done, and in the week previous, you just have to back on that and have confidence in it.
Do you have many conversations with Johnny Sexton about that element of the game, or any other element of playing 10?
Yeah, we'd have conversations, definitely about like plays and what we're going to run for the week. And definitely when I was younger, I would have talked to him a lot more about that. But I think we both have our own routines and we both know what works for each one of us. So being able to talk about plays and stuff is obviously important, because he's obviously an incredible rugby mind, and being able to pick his brain on a few things definitely helps my game a lot.
And is the game plan the exact same, whether it's you or him in the 10 shirt?
Yeah, like it's a team game plan, no matter who's on the pitch. 1 to 23 is, you just don't know with injury. Like someone could pull out in the warm up, or someone could pull out in the first 5 minutes. So as universally, we try and keep everything similar, because it's better for the team.
Is there a tendency then, and like, I mean, in a positive sense, is there a tendency to, I guess, follow the graph a little bit of Johnny Sexton? Obviously, you'll have your own sort of stamp on things, but with regards to him taking the ball to the line, his bravery in the tackle, all that sort of stuff that plays into this new Ireland game plan, is there kind of a necessity for you to follow in those footsteps a little bit?
Yeah, I'd say so, definitely. I think the game plan, really, everyone can slot in, and if everyone does their job, and I suppose being the 10, you can learn a lot from what Johnny does and seeing what he does in training and in the game. So obviously we're not the same players, so we do things differently, but being able to see what he does and add little things to my game is massively important.
How great was the learning experience on Saturday? And I mean that in the sense of France more than anything else. I mean, coming up against that big French pack, playing in Paris, and I guess realising what a force this new French team is. Did you come away from the game thinking, right, that's a bit of a marker, we can learn a lot from this?
Yeah, hugely. I think obviously going up against them, and with the next World Cup being in France, being in Stade de France, even getting a feel for it. I think we have 4 or 5 games in the World Cup there, so getting a feel for a full crowd and being able to plant that seed early is massively important. And then coming up against France as well, like, you don't know what the draw is going to be and how that's going to go. And I think they're a very strong team at the moment. They're very young as well. So, but I do think from an Irish side, I think we obviously didn't start the best, but to be able to come back into the game like we did and show the belief that we showed is a huge thing we can take, because no matter what happens, we can always fight back and get back into it.
Last one for me. There's a huge focus in the aftermath on the decision not to kick for the corner and to take the points. Is there anything in your heads afterwards now where you go and let's talk through the decision and see in retrospect, would we do something differently, or is it just that's parked straight away? Like, how do you first off, the level of focus that is on that, and then is there any parts of you that are going, well, we should just talk this through again, and would we make the same decision if that occurs or reoccurs?
I suppose you can always take learnings from it, but I think still looking back on it, I think it was the right call. It brought us to within 3 points with 9 minutes left. I think, who knows, we get back in, we get within anywhere in the halfway, and Conor Murray or myself back ourselves to kick from there. So I think it was the right call at the time. And yeah, looking back on it, I'd still, if I was to go back in time and do it again, I'd do the same thing.
And the extra focus that comes now from these games, all these big decisions are going to be played out again and again and again in the media. That's just something you guys have to live with, I suspect.
Definitely. Like, anyone knows that hindsight's a great thing, and people could be like, oh, if you kicked to the corner and you scored the 7, then you would have won. But you don't know. France could have come back, and you just don't know. Yeah. I suppose we all still think to this day that it's the right call, and that's what we have to go on. We're the ones out on the pitch, and we were the ones who live by it. So yeah, I think we're deadly right.
I think everybody's delighted that you're back and that you had the opportunity to show us what you're capable of at the weekend. Do you feel that support from the public? That there's, like, we've been dying to see what you can do in an Ireland jersey for so long. Because of the injuries, you haven't had a real fair crack at it just yet, but that's coming now, and we're all very excited about it. I guess you must be too.
Yeah, massively. I did feel a huge amount of support, and there was so much well wishes, and it's so nice to be able to go out there and show somewhat of what I can do, and yeah, it's really exciting. So looking forward to the rest of the tournament and onwards.
And keep up the good work. Thanks a million for joining us. Cheers.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.
It's Joey Carbery there chatting to us this morning on OTB AM to launch Rugby Players Ireland Tackle Your Feelings campaign. The hashtag is I'm Taking Control.